Mark Thompson, of course, Make It Plain with Mark Thompson. He's on every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and he used to be in this very slot. And then Michelangelo Signorile, who I didn't let leave the studio. He was just sitting in here. I'm just making small talk with him. I'm like, now you're on. Who just hosted, of course, Michael.
Hi, Dean.
Mark.
Hey.
Thank you guys very much.
It's rare that the three of us get together.
I
Like
know.
This is very rare.
This is Mark's never here this late.
It's a Muslim, African American, and a gay guy. This is Trump's worst nightmare. The three of us
That's
here.
right.
That's right.
All we need
Trump
is a
and
woman.
Bannon.
We need a
no,
woman.
We're Roy Moore's,
Yeah, that's right. Because
enemy
he
right
wants to
here.
put you in jail. My religion doesn't even exist, and black people had it better when there was slavery because your families were intact.
There you go.
So you got everything. So obviously the big issue, and we're going to chat about it for a little while. It's not like a whole thing. Then we'll take some calls when these two fine gentlemen go on their way. The idea of Steve Bannon coming back here. Now the reality was, to put it in context, he was here during the election, even before the election. He was here sitting in this studio, literally in this chair, doing his show when he was not in D.C. Then left the show to go to run Trump's campaign of white supremacy, and then went in the White House. Now he's back out, and here we have now a growing controversy that's gone beyond the walls of SiriusXM to the world of MSNBC, CNN, celebrities from Seth Rogen, Melissa Etheridge, John Leguizamo. I heard Bill Pullman today tweeted out, I'm canceling my subscription, and countless progressives who I like and know, who follow me on Twitter, gone from the span of I'm quitting SiriusXM to others, I'm really, really distraught by this, to others in between, I'm considering it. And we are the progress people here in New York, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to chat about it. I don't know if we all agree on it, probably not, but where we're going. So, Mark, we were chatting earlier. What is your view on this?
Well, honestly, I think I would probably first defer to Mike, because Mike made a pretty, I think, bold announcement today, one that I've not made yet, and I'm prepared to honestly agree with him on. But Mike, you want to
Are you leaving? Well, I'll take the time slot. 3 to 6 is
Well,
so
I
much.
I didn't know I made such a bold announcement.
No, you're not. You're not resigning if they don't. Get rid of them. That's not it? All right,
Well, look,
sorry.
I don't know if I made such a bold announcement beyond you, because you were on MSNBC, and of course you, as Dean, have said a boycott is a stupid idea. Progress has built an enormous platform here. We're connecting people across the country. People, listen to us. We're helping people to organize against the Bannons of the world. So certainly not supporting any boycott, but that you mentioned on MSNBC, the company may have to reconsider because of brand damage that may be done. Now, I'm seeing all of these people saying they're going to cancel their subscriptions. I've had a good friend who wrote me and canceled his subscription, who's a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. We're seeing celebrities that we respect. Melissa Etheridge, somebody who's been a friend to this show, a lesbian icon, comes on this program. I don't want to see her not come on. I was just direct messaging with Billy Eichner not too long ago, and I saw him retweet Seth Rogen's tweet. So I think there's going to be a lot more celebrities. I love this company, and I love this channel. I love all the channels. Well, most of the channels. I don't want to see it hurt and tarnished.
Right.
And so I do believe it was a bad decision to bring him, and I do believe that there should be a decision to take them off, and that companies all the time make reversals and they get rewarded. Daily Caller had Milo just a few weeks ago. They hired Milo Yiannopoulos and they fired him in a couple of days because there was such an outrage. I can go on for so many different.
Sam Sater at MSNBC got fired and then rehired,
right,
because they realized it was a joke, and
right.
Mike Cernovich is a jerk who was involved in the whole thing.
Yeah. And they keep, people are saying,
Sebastian
well, would it be
Gorka.
worse would the backlash be worse if he's gone? But he has an 11% approval rating. The country is...
Bannon?
Yeah.
Wow.
The country, at least the last poll I saw from Quinnipiac, the country is, in a different place than it was. It's going to hurt more to keep him than to get rid of him.
Well, not only that, and thank you for having us, Dean.
Sure.
What I said yesterday is the company may have to reconsider, and the argument I've been making is that you use the ACLU analogy, no greater defender of First Amendment, but when it's hate speech, it crosses a line, and the ACLU changed its posture after Charlottesville. I said SiriusXM may have to do the same thing, and I think now we're at that point. we're no longer in a free speech argument space.
No.
As a matter of fact, the cancellation of subscriptions undermines the free speech platform. There's no point in providing a free speech platform if people are canceling the free speech platform. And so Steve Bannon is causing cancellations. Now, if we go on your show right now and say, everybody cancel your subscription, the company will say, well, y'all crazy. We're going to fire you.
Right.
But Steve Bannon is doing that and causing that and bringing that about indirectly. And so I think under those circumstances, he's got to go. And honestly, I've been trying to talk people out of doing that and supporting our position. But, I respect the will of the masses and the will of the people. People are not stopping. And honestly, as a company, SiriusXM has to look at what even happened with the NFL. I mean, its ratings are down. People have stopped watching the NFL because of the Take a Knee movement, because of Colin Kaepernick. And it, in many respects, is irreparably harmed. So, again, this was a dumb decision. I know people will say freedom of speech, freedom of speech. I'll die for freedom of speech. But when it gets to a point when it's hate speech and the public just won't stand for it, this is the problem. You mentioned to me yesterday the situation with Opie and Anthony, and that's the precedent for this company, quite frankly, because Anthony Cumia, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly,
Right.
was carrying out hate speech on his personal Twitter account, not even on the air, and the company got rid of him. So Breitbart is a hateful website. It posts hateful things. Steve Bannon is the main person in charge. He supports that. He pushes back. And if we're not beholden to the masses who are consumers, who are we beholden to? So I'm going to join with Mike. I'm going to join with Pete Dominic and say this is not a free speech matter. This is a question of someone undermining the very platform and undermining free speech by their very presence, because people are turning us off.
And just to get back at that free speech issue, because you hear this argument, well, it's all the diversity of opinion, but white supremacy and racism and white nationalism are not part of the acceptable diversity of opinion. And then you have to get into, well, is he a white supremacist or not? Now, if you're enabling them, supporting them, electing them, you're a white supremacist. Sorry.
As Dr. King said about Barry Goldwater, he gives aid and comfort. And that's what Steve Bannon does.
I have Steve Bannon on the phone. Let's take his call.
Come on.
It would be amazing if we. Well, it's what I hear from you two gentlemen that I have great respect for is that the fear of mainstreaming of this vile, despicable philosophy of Steve Bannon is such a concern that's why you're pushing back, because you're both free speech, First Amendment type guys. I mean, this is what we do for a living. And me too. And I, when I was on CNN and I wrote about it on Twitter, the same thing, that Steve Bannon is vile and despicable. I've written several articles before this about him turning Breitbart into the #1 anti-Muslim website in America. And I said it objectively. People, the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center has listed as the leading anti-Muslim bigots. All of them write for Breitbart. All of them are welcome. Pam Geller, Bridget Gabriel, Frank Gaffney, Gertz Filder, he's not even American.
Sebastian Gorka.
Gorka, who of course will be.
We're told he's going to be on the channel
on
too.
a weekend show. So that's where it's.
Are you serious? Gorka's going to be on?
Gorka
the
on
press
the
release
weekend.
says he's going to have a weekend thing on the
I missed Sebastian. I didn't even know that.
It's in the press release.
It's in the press release.
After I read the first couple lines, I need to read the rest of it. Sebastian Gorka is going to have a show.
They're developing a thing.
Oh
It's
my
him. It's going to be in German, and it's going to be in Hungarian. It's going to be
y'all
a
joking,
salute.
right?
No, we're not.
He is going to have a show.
He blocked me on Twitter.
He probably want his own press.
Dean,
he might want his own press release
Dean,
too.
would you defend this company if they gave the KKK a show?
No, but I would defend the KKK's right in First Amendment setting to speak in America.
Speak in the street,
Right,
to have a parade.
And to put up, and they want to do a parade, I will defend that.
But what I'm asking is, would you defend their right to be on this network?
No, if David Duke was getting a show here, we would be completely acceptably outraged and saying, what are you doing? You have to fire him. It could even get to the point where you're like, if he stays on air, we can't stay here. The thing about what Bannon has done, and you guys both touched on it, he himself has not spewed this rhetoric that we can point to.
He has not?
Like David, not in the same way. He has been very measured. He's given a platform to the worst people possible.
And he's their representative.
Absolutely.
He's bragged about this being the home of the alt-right.
Proudly alt-right.
Well, he is speaking tonight with Roy Moore.
He's there, exactly.
In Alabama.
Now, there's some who are expecting him, frankly, to say something that would justify his removal from SiriusXM.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Well, that's always a business decision. They can fire any of us anytime for that stuff.
Which would not be unusual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he will say something. He can say something that would bring about that harm, but and get himself removed. But listen, I'm with you. I'm with Pete. He's got to go.
I would.
And it's a false equivalency to say that people in our position.
It doesn't mean
no
anyone's
right.
going to listen to us.
Right. But it's also a false
guys.
equivalency to say that for anyone to say that us being on is equal to him being on. We don't engage in hate radio.
No.
And we don't engage. We don't tear down groups of people, individuals, nationalities, ethnic groups, religions. We don't tear that down. We defend
or tolerate it from
right.
any caller, because that's something else that goes on his show. A caller could call up and say literally anything, and he's like, "Thank you for the call."
But and one other, and I'm chatting with Michelangelo Signorile and Mark Thompson, both in studio here. I corralled them both. Michael was leaving, like, Mike, stay, and Mark just happened to be here. I'm like, please come down. You know, to me, the anger at Bannon is one thing. But Breitbart itself is where I think a lot of it should be directed, not saying cancel their shows, but either they temper or perhaps it gets to that point. I mean, Alex Marlow, who hosts just recently, a week or two ago, was saying essentially, and I'm trying not to paraphrase, I'm trying to quote it, but he said, rape is when a woman regrets having sex with you.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And so you're like, what world do we live in? That's allowed to be a mainstream view where you have a place where we respect these airways. We respect this channel and this network. And that's something that I find insulting to SiriusXM as a company and to the people who listen,
right,
to have that kind of apology for rape on air.
And even if you were to say, okay, look, this is different than any other place. People can say whatever they want. That's not really true, because getting back to Anthony Cumia, he was fired because he made racist comments on his personal Twitter
and he
page.
Was not even on the air when he said them. He didn't say them on the air. So there is precedent here. You know, we're not just pulling this out of thin air.
Right.
Look, he's got to go. Celebrities every day are canceling from other shows. Music shows are affected. Entertainment shows are affected. Across the board, they are affected, and the public has spoken up. Now, we can be stubborn as a company and say, do like Roger Goodell and say, oh, we're just going to stand. But ultimately, that affects what's going on. And as we said yesterday, and as I said yesterday and you said today, Mike, that's the brand. And once your brand is irreparably harmed, that's worse than cancellations. Once you represent something like that, then even if you get people to come back, people will always associate you with Steve Bannon. And I dare say that he enjoys this, and it may be provocateurish, because here's what's interesting to me. Many of the same people we've asked not to cancel or unsubscribe will then come back at us and say that we are somehow unprincipled at Progress for not quitting our jobs, or we're not worth listening to. I said, wait a minute, how can you be against Bannon and against the progressive hosts at the same time? Those are Bannon's very people who are doing this and encouraging this and pushing this line. Right. I believe from the bottom of my heart, all those people are not genuine. Some of them are banned. Some of them are. But if you got just
we've been hearing from our Progress listeners, both on the shows and on
they're
Twitter.
All calling here. Some saying, I want to cancel. Some saying, what are you kidding? I'll never cancel.
They're very loyal. And, I think people get that. But you're right. Some of these people may be provocateurs.
I'll be honest. To be blunt, if you cancel, the only person happy is Steve Bannon.
That's right.
I mean, that's the only person who's happy is Steve Bannon.
But
he
like
came
I
in
said,
here
I
and
had
manipulated
a
everybody at
friend
SiriusXM.
Canceled, and I tried to talk him out of it, and he said, I just can't. He's been a subscriber for the past 13 years.
Anybody here who is still naive enough to think that Steve Bannon is good for SiriusXM or is a friend of SiriusXM, oh, he's really a nice guy. He has done this to this company. And as I said yesterday, a lot of decent people work here. Everybody I know who works here works hard every day to provide the best in news, entertainment, sports, music, and talk. And they are all affected. I heard several employees, regular people, high and low, say to me today, Mark, we used to come to work and be proud to say we worked at SiriusXM and be proud to repeat it. This weekend, people said they went to holiday parties, and when they said SiriusXM, people went the other way. They didn't want to talk to him. They were ashamed of it.
I was at emceeing an event for Muslim Americans in New Jersey over the weekend, and when they introduced me, they said, and he hosts a show on SiriusXM, and actually in front of everyone, while introducing me, they go, "What do you think of Steve Bannon?" I'm like, how is that? That's now the normal reaction where, let's be honest also, if any of us had done something where all these people were canceling because of us
Wouldn't even be
on,
thought about.
we'd be gone.
Black man, Muslim, LGBT, we'd be out of here.
So, this is the world we live in right now.
And in this era of Me Too,
yeah,
he is running around tonight like a buffoon, supporting a hebephile. Now, what kind of message does that send to women? What kind of message does that send to women? I know one thing.
I don't know how you say he's not a bigot if he's literally
he's
helping
he's a vile,
Roy
despicable
Moore
bigot.
to get elected.
Right.
Well, but I think that you have this argument out there that, he's not really bigoted, and his speech then is part of the diversity of opinions. That's what we keep hearing from the company.
I think the
Bannon
idea
must go.
The definition of bigotry, they are trying to change it. I mean, the Breitbarts and the Bannons out there, where what was not acceptable before, they want it to be acceptable. So their views are then applauded as normal. We've seen this with the entire Trump campaign. But all right, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for coming. Unless you have other things to say.
Wow, did we give you a mouthful?
This is great.
Hashtag y'all, Bannon must bounce.
Hashtag
Bounce Bannon.
No, unless you want to add something. I mean, you guys both did your shows and you're sticking around. All right.
No, we dropped
Thank
this
you.
bomb.
wanna
You take it from
Michael
here.
Signorile,
Now you can deal with all
Mark
the calls.
Thompson, I'm going to take your calls right at the top of the hour. We'll take a quick break.
Thank you, Dean, for
Thank
having
you
us
both
on.
for
Thank
staying
you.
on
Thank
and
you for
talking
having
about
me
this
on.
very honestly. And I'm learning from you guys have been doing radio. You are out here fighting. You're activists outside of this place, and I respect your views and your activism. So I really wanted to hear from you, and I really appreciate your views on this.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
You've
Thank you,
been
guys.
doing good stuff on TV too. On
I
this.
try. Thanks, guys. We'll take a quick break. Come back. Take your calls right at the top of the hour. Dean Obeidallah Show.